Hi, I'm Ted Taylor with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. We're here at the Huron County Soil Demonstration Day, and we're going to be looking at some soils in lovely Huron County. Before we describe the soil pit and the various layers in it and the material in it, we should talk about how the material got here. There's three ways that soils can get deposited, and there's three forces that deposit soils across the landscape. It's ice, water, and wind. And in southern Ontario, it's usually in that order. It's glacial ice, it's meltwaters and ponded water, often in the form of post-glacial lakes. And then after that, when the landscape is completely barren of any vegetation in very sub-zero Arctic-like weather, a lot of the material is blown around by wind. This particular soil was deposited by ice. When ice moves forward, it either pushes, scrapes, and smears material as it advances, or it deposits soil material by dropping it when the glacier recedes or melts. In this particular soil, in this pit, the material was smeared or compacted across the landscape from an advancing glacier. One of the ways to tell that you've got material dropped by a glacier or deposited by a glacier is by looking at the stones, or what we call coarse fragments. The other thing to look for is compacted material in the soil profile itself. If the material down about 50 centimeters to 70 centimeters appears to be more compacted, there's a very high probability that this was deposited by an advancing glacier. The ones that we look at are soil color, how brown, how red, how white the soil is. Are there different soil features, color features within that? We look at soil texture, and that's the relative coarseness or fineness of soil. Is the soil a sandy loam, or a clay loam, or a clay? We look at that as well. We also look at structure, and structure is how soil particles form against one another. And we look at the different types. After looking at the soil texture, structure, color, the various layers or horizons in the soil, and the depths of these layers, we're ready to describe this soil pit, and that's what we have here. The first thing that we notice in looking at the layers of the soil are the three major types, the A, the B, and the C. In this one, the topsoil or the seedbed is referred to as the A horizon. And it's quite recognizable because this is where most of the humus or organic matter has been worked into the soil. It's often a flat line, or generally flat line, because it follows the path of tillage equipment over the decades that this has been cultivated. The other horizon that stands out quite readily is the parent material, or C horizon. What I've just dropped on is 10% hydrochloric acid, and this reacts with the free lime, the same type of lime that you get in your kettle that builds up in your hot water heater. When 10% acid, hydrochloric acid, is dropped on it, it reacts with the calcium carbonate and forms carbon dioxide. The other feature I wanted to indicate here in the C horizon is the expression of color as it relates to soil water table activity. Most soils have, at certain depths, a soil water table where the soil itself is saturated. All the pores are filled with water. If it's prolonged saturation, or the water table is in a situation or in a level for a long period of time, you will get several color changes going on. One is a rust-colored thing in the soil, and these are called mottles. If you can see some rust spots here and some grayish colors, the rust spots indicate a fluctuating water table. The grayish colors kind of indicate it's a bit of a prolonged saturation. So without tile drainage, there's a good chance that the soil here would be saturated to this point for a good part of the year. And you're saying, okay, so what? Well, if it's saturated, and soils are about 40 to 50% pores, that means roots can't grow in it, there's no air. There's kind of two steps to looking at soils or describing them in the field. The first is describing the features that you're looking at and understanding what you're looking at. The second is linking that description to the significance for soil management and soil health.